If you are an entrepreneur or an online business owner, then I'm so excited that you're here because you are likely here to learn about podcasting, the magical world of podcasting, and all of the incredible things that go along with it. Yes, I know. I understand. I'm a little more enthusiastic than the average podcast person, but that's because this is what I live and I breathe and I love it so much. So if you have been wondering how to start a podcast, then let's get right to it. Hey y'all, Crystal here today, and I'm so excited to talk to you about podcasting, but specifically starting a podcast because recently we put out a video that was all about the 7 decisions you need to make in order to be ready to start a podcast. Because believe it or not, there are a few more steps in the process that are above and beyond just recording an audio file and putting it out on the internet for people to listen to it. I mean, you can do that. And a lot of people have potentially seen success doing that, but I like to have a plan in place for what I'm doing whenever I'm creating my podcast content, I'm connecting with my audience, and I want it to be something that looks put together and my audience really looks forward to listening to every single week. So in today's video, I'm going to cover some of the basics of podcasting, but I'm also going to dive into some of the practical steps that you can take to have a successful podcast. And we're actually going to jump over to the computer so I can show you some of the behind the scenes of what I believe are some of the tools every podcaster should have. Whether you're just starting, you're in that middle phase of launching and trying to get things figured out, or you are full-blown marketing, scaling, creating content, and doing all the things. So I hope that you learned something today in this video all about podcast creation. So let's go over to the computer. Okay, so I'm excited to give you a little behind-the-scenes tour of some of the ways that I use a bunch of tools to help me create my podcast every single week. Now, the first of those tools is my simple content calendar. I actually have another video right here that's a little bit fancier, and it shows you how to use the program Asana to create your podcast content and set up a content calendar. But I gotta be really honest, I really just use a Google Sheet, and it is what has worked for me for the last 2 years. So you don't have to get fancy. I think that whatever works best for you is what you should go with. But I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on here. So as you can see, here, I'll make this a little bit bigger. So we are working with a spreadsheet from 2020. So this is not my most current month, but I wanted to show you this for a specific reason. Because the way that I have this set up is you can see this is the day of the week we're going to publish. The Profit Podcast comes out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so twice a week, and then the actual date that it comes out. This is important for me because I have a promotional calendar throughout the year where I will share, okay, this is whenever I have an affiliate promotion going on, or I want to talk about my own course or my membership, whatever the case may be. But I think that it's important to know the date and the day of the week that those episodes are coming out so you can align all of your goals together. And then I'll have the topic or title right here. Sometimes the topic that I have here is simply a placeholder, and it may not be what is eventually the title of the podcast or the episode title that I put on the post. That's the show notes on my website, but that's okay. I just have to know exactly what this episode is about and the episode number. This is really important because I will look at my calendar here before I start recording, and then I know, oh, this is the exact episode number that I'm on. Because as you can see, look, I have a bonus episode thrown in here, and my bonus episodes don't get a number. I skip down to the next episode to give that one a number. So I could keep all of this in one place, keep it pretty and organized, and it just makes a lot of sense to me. Now, okay, let's address the elephant in the room, there's a lot of colors going on, right? So what I'll do is this color simply means these episodes are published. They are already live. They have been published already. So what I will do, usually, this is a solo episode right here. Once it's recorded, I will gray it out. And the rest of this would just have a white background. It wouldn't have anything else back here. So let's just pretend like this is the month that I'm working in. So if I were to go in and look at, okay, what am I going to create a solo podcast about? This is what the topic or title would be. I would go create, do my planning and everything else like that, actually record it and edit it. And then it's still grayed out until it is actually published in my hosting site. Don't worry, we're going to get there in a second. I cannot wait to talk to you about hosting sites. But when it's published in my hosting site and it's been marketed to my audience. Now, what does that mean? It means simply that I have published about it on social media, I've sent it to my email list, and I have talked about it in all the aspects, like all the check boxes that I have for marketing my podcast. If you want to know more about marketing your podcast, you can check out this playlist of videos here. There are some great tips and strategies for how you can use sound bites and other forms of marketing for your show. But I think that it's important to distinguish which episodes have been recorded or which ones have been planned. Because as you can see here, some of these are interviews. Every Thursday, I'll do an interview episode. So if I know I have a whole bunch of interviews coming up, I can go ahead and drop that person's name right there in the calendar. So I can plan accordingly. I can tell someone, hey, we're going to schedule your interview. This is the day that we're going to actually record your interview, and this is when it's going to air. I know this is a lot of information about podcast content calendars, but I think it's super important to know what you're doing on your podcast and when, because whenever you can sit down to record with confidence, you just feel so much better about the content. I did promise you that we were going to chat about podcast hosting sites. So let's hop on over to Buzzsprout so I can show you a little behind the scenes of one of my podcasts. So if you're wondering what a hosting site is, this is actually where your podcast lives online. It's where you upload your audio files every single week, and they are the platform that distributes your podcast to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon, and all the other places where you want your podcast to show up. And you can actually try out Buzzsprout, my hosting provider, for free for 90 days. You can go to crystalprofit.com/Buzzsprout. And this video actually today is sponsored by Buzzsprout. So I wanted to give you a quick tour and show you what they're all about and some of my favorite features. So again, if you go to crystalprofit.com/Buzzsprout, this is the page that you will end up on. And you actually get a $20 Amazon gift card if you decide to go from a free Buzzsprout account to a paid Buzzsprout account. And we'll talk about the differences here in a second. So let's go check out Buzzsprout. So the different features, I'm actually going to show you, like I said earlier, a behind the scenes of the Poddy Report, my daily podcast. So we'll dive into the features there. If you want to go into pricing, I'll just take you on a quick tour. Again, you have the free option, which gives you 2 hours every month. You have a $12 option, $18, and $24. All of these are super affordable, especially with all of the advantages that you get. Like, actually, they're listed down here. You get stats, a website, embed players, and you can get into all the podcast directories. We're going to dive into some of these other advanced features when we head on over to the Poddy Report, but I just wanted to give you a quick tour of your options. Now, what I also love about Buzzsprout is they have so many resources for brand new podcasters, including an entire course on how to start a podcast and get everything up and running. And I gotta just be really honest with you. I'm in love with their YouTube channel. They have so many incredible videos, from editing and getting on other podcasts to interview tips and how to run an actual podcast production. So make sure you go check out the resources that they have, and you can find even more Oh, look, how to start a podcast email course. You can go check that out as well. But you can go to their blog and they have tips all the time on how to have better artwork, what it looks like to actually run a successful podcast, and so much more. But without further ado, I want to show you the behind the scenes of my podcast, the Poddy Report. So here we are. This is actually the behind the scenes of my daily podcast, and I want to go on a quick tour. So whenever you first set up your podcast, it will look very different than what mine does because I have more than 200 episodes already from this podcast that was just launched in March 2020. So first things first, I always recommend going to podcast settings. This is where you're going to input the important information such as your podcast title, the description, and your artwork. And again, what I love about Buzzsprout is they have these little embedded, hey, you want some tips on creating great podcast artwork? Check out this blog post or go watch this video. So that's super helpful throughout the entire process. But you want to make sure you do these things first before you try to start uploading all of your content as a brand new podcaster. And then we'll come down to your categories. You can select which one is going to work best for you and your show, how you want it to appear in all the players. And then I have my podcast in English. I'm on the Central Time Zone. The artist is who I am, and the other information on here is what you would fill out to complete the podcast settings for your podcast. So I would come up here and click Save Podcast Info. Yay, we're good to go. Oh, it says, yippee, your podcast has been updated. So let's see what else is in here. You can add team members to your account. So if you have a virtual assistant or a project manager that is helping you with your podcast, you can add them here. Or if you have a podcast editor, right? Like if you're doing a lot of the creation and you want to handle the back end of, oh, this is the episode number, the title, the description, but your editor is simply creating the audio file, then you can have them access your podcast as well. And then here, if you decide that you want to go with one plan and then further in the future, you're like, oh, I think I want to try something else out, then this is where you would make those changes. And then backup, I suggest backing up your podcast from time to time. That way, if anything happens, you have your individual episodes and the information that you want from Buzzsprout. And then canceling and redirecting, this is where all of this would take place. So now I want to go into episodes, right? This is really what you want to see. You want to see, how does this entire process work? It's very, very simple. And actually, if we want to scroll down, you can see all of my previous episodes that we've had. And this is a daily podcast that has about 5 minutes or less, Monday through Friday. And this little MM right here stands for Magic Mastering. I did a video right here all about how Magic Mastering works with Buzzsprout, but really it's just a Instagram filter for your podcast. What does that mean though, right? It means that when you apply Magic Mastering to your podcast episodes, it simply brings all of your audio levels to a very pleasurable sound for your listeners, right? That sounds kind of weird to say, but it's true. Every single episode of this podcast has had Magic Mastering applied to it, and you can tell. I've recorded episodes on my phone with my kids in the background, outside when it's windy. I've recorded it on my AirPods. Like, I have recorded this podcast everywhere, and the audio always sounds great because I have Magic Mastering from Buzzsprout applied. So if that's something you're interested in, I highly recommend checking it out. Okay, so now let's actually go through the process of uploading an episode. So if we were to just pick an episode to upload, for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to grab one and dump it in there. You could go through your files and actually find one, but I'm just dragging and dropping an audio file in there. One quick note while this is processing, you have to have an MP3 or a WAV file in order for your podcast to be uploaded into Buzzsprout. They don't process other raw files like from Audacity or GarageBand or Hindenburg or even Audition. So that's just something to keep in mind. You have to have an actual MP3 or WAV file whenever you're uploading it to your hosting site. So success, it's been uploaded. So for here, I could say test clip for video. There we go. And then I could put, this is my episode description, if I can spell. And this is where you would put the information about your podcast. And then I would come down here to episode artwork. Now, I get asked a lot, should I input a specific piece of artwork for every episode, or can it just be the same artwork every single time? I think that you can keep it the same. I don't really like the idea of changing it up every time, simply because I want you to brand your show where people see your artwork, recognize it automatically, and say, oh, I've got to go listen to that because I know that logo. Then you come down here and you can input your seasons and your episode number. You can decide if this is a full, trailer, or bonus episode. And if you have those F-bombs or occasional bad words in your podcast, then you definitely want to mark your content explicit so people know we need a little earmuffs in here, right? Maybe we shouldn't have the babies in the background when you're listening to this podcast. Maybe pop in your earbuds. And then we come down here further. I always suggest going to the See More Options tab, because this gives you the opportunity to select the artist or the guest. I put myself whenever I do a solo episode, and then I will put my guest information, their first and last name, whenever I have an interview on the podcast. Then for summary, this is like your long tail keywords or something that is a very short descriptive sentence about what your podcast is. For example, if I were to put test clip for video, that tells me I know exactly what this is about, but I would really steer it more towards something that your audience will know automatically. Oh, that's what that podcast episode is in reference to. And then your custom episode webpage, if you do have a website that's independent from your podcast hosting site, then I recommend you putting it in here. Or if you have a lead magnet, if you have an offer or another place where you want to drive traffic, put that episode webpage address in here. And then as far as tags go, these are another keywords that you can put in that are related to your podcast. So for me, I have podcast creation, how to start a podcast equipment, how to market a podcast, how to launch a podcast. I have those in there all separated by commas for most episodes of my show. And then once everything is uploaded, I've input all the information here. You can decide whether you want to publish your episode immediately or schedule it for the future. Now, in my experience as a podcaster who's published more than 400 episodes at this point, I always recommend scheduling. I don't come in here every Tuesday or every Thursday morning on the day that an episode's supposed to air and say, oh yeah, I forgot, I need to click publish. That stresses me out because I want my audience in the habit of knowing that my podcast is going to be there every Tuesday and Thursday. And the way that I ensure that happens is by scheduling content out. So what I tend to do is I will click schedule for the future, and I would click January 8th and then go to 12 a.m. because that's midnight my time. So even for my international friends, hey guys, I see y'all listening to the podcast, and I so appreciate y'all listening to the Poddy Report and the Profit Podcast. But I know that I have some UK friends that often listen to my show, so I don't want them having to wait until it's afternoon if I publish my show at 7 a.m. Central Time. They wouldn't get it till 5 or 6 hours later. So what I do is I publish my episodes at midnight on the day that I want them to air. If you have any other questions about that, put it in the comments below. I would love to chat more about when to actually publish your episodes or how to schedule them out. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to click leave unpublished because I don't want to forget to go back and not actually publish this episode. So it's working and it's going to process this audio, and it tells me right here, this clip is not live. Okay, awesome. One thing that I want to point out is if you are a brand new podcaster, you will not have stats on your episodes until you have at least 3 audio files uploaded. This could be your podcast trailer and your first 2 episodes. If you want to know more about what you do with a podcast trailer, make sure you watch this video that shows you a little bit more about what you need to put in there, how long does it need to be, and then I also have another video right here all about when to publish your podcast trailer. This is important. That way you know that you are prepared as you get ready to launch your podcast. But that's all I have for you today in this demonstration and this behind the scenes. Make sure you check out the other videos we have that are more about the podcast monetization side, and stay tuned for more content about Buzzsprout's brand new dynamic content tool. But that's all I have for you today. If you have any other questions about getting started with a podcast, don't hesitate to reach out. Make sure you put in the comments below what your podcast is about. Tell me what the topic is of your show, or give us the name of your show, or any podcast specific questions that you have, because I love getting in the comments and chatting with you. Make sure you check out these other videos right here, all about podcasting and running your online business. And as always, if you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up below. And remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.